Hey everyone, my name is Leah and I'm so glad you're here today for small group. Before we jump into our lesson, we're going to start with our end time. This is when we look inward toward each other and get to know each other a little better. I've got a question for us to get talking. There are no right or wrong answers, just a chance to share and hear from each other. So answer the question with your small group and then we'll move on. There's a phrase Christians say a lot that sounds good, but can easily miss the point. Christianity isn't a religion, it's a relationship. Now, sometimes people mean something really important by that. They're trying to say that following Jesus isn't about doing religious stuff to earn God's love. It's not about praying the right prayers or being a good enough person so God will like you. God already loves you. Jesus already came for you. But when we hear that phrase, it can slowly turn into something dangerous. The idea that rules, commands, or scripture don't really matter. That all we need to do is to feel close to God. And that's not actually what Jesus taught. In Matthew 22, Jesus is asked a huge question. Teacher, what is the greatest commandment in the law? This wasn't a casual question. Jewish teachers had identified 613 commands in the law of Moses. Some were about worship, some about relationships, some about daily life. People debated which ones mattered the most. And Jesus' answer would tell everyone how he understood God, Scripture, and what life in God's kingdom was really about. Jesus answers by quoting something every Jewish person knew, the Shema. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. Then he adds something unexpected. And the second is like it, love your neighbor as yourself. And he finishes by saying, all the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments. That word hang matters. Jesus is saying that every command God gave, every rule, instruction, boundary, and teaching is supported by these two loves. Love for God and love for people. Not one without the other, not one above the other. They are equal in weight. This explains why Jesus lived the way that he did. In his day, the commandment to keep the Sabbath holy was taken very seriously. The Sabbath day was the day to set aside for church gathering and worship. Jews were not allowed to do any work on this day, even household chores. But Jesus was often criticized for doing work on the Sabbath by healing people and performing miracles. But when Jesus healed people on the Sabbath, he wasn't ignoring God's law. He was fulfilling it. He was showing that loving God is never separated from loving people. You don't honor God by ignoring someone in pain. You don't worship God well while refusing to care for your neighbor. For Israel, religion and relationship were never opposites. The commands were given so that they could live closer to a holy, powerful God without being destroyed, and so that they could become people who reflected his love to the world. The law didn't create their relationship with God. God did that when he rescued them. The law taught them how to live inside that relationship. Jesus doesn't throw that away. He deepens it. He says, if you want to know what really matters, stop asking which rules you can get away with breaking. Ask instead, does this help me love God? Does this help me love people? That's challenging for us because we live in a world that says the most important thing to do is to be true to yourself. Follow your heart. Do what feels right to you. But Jesus says something different. He says God, not your feelings, not your desires, not your comfort, is the center of life. And here's the key truth. You don't get to decide how you love God. God tells you. If God is real, not just an idea, but a real person, then loving him means listening to him. It means letting what God says in the Bible shape how you live. It means looking at Jesus' life and learning from him what real love actually looks like. Jesus shows us that God's commands aren't actually about controlling us. They're about changing us for the better. God's rules aren't meant to crush you. They're meant to help you build your life around the only one strong enough to hold it all together. So let's pause here for a moment and answer some questions with our small group, and then we'll move on. So what does this actually look like for you as a teenager, right now in your real life? First, check what's at the center of your life. Jesus says love for God and love for others should be the gravitational center, the thing that everything else orbits around. But most of us don't live like that. School, sports, popularity, dating, grades, social media, and comfort all try to take that place. Ask yourself honestly, what gets most of my attention? What shapes my decisions? What do I protect the most? Whatever that is, that's your center. Following Jesus means slowly, intentionally recentering your life around Him. That doesn't happen by accident. Second, practice loving God the way that He asks to be loved. That means opening Scripture, even when it's uncomfortable or confusing. Start small. Read one chapter a day from the Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. If you participate in the Student Ministry Daily Devotionals, you will read through the Gospels in about a year. Watch how Jesus treats people. Listen to how He speaks. Ask, what does this teach me about who God is and how He wants me to live? Loving God isn't just emotional, it's obedient. Jesus Himself said, "If you love me, you will keep my commands." Not because you're afraid of Him, but because you trust Him. Third, let love for people guide your decisions. This is where it gets real. Loving your neighbor means asking questions like, how do I talk about people who aren't in the room? How do I treat the kid everyone else ignores? Do my jokes build up people or do they tear them down? Am I more focused on being right or being kind? You don't have to do something dramatic. Loving your neighbor might look like sitting with someone new, standing up for someone being mocked, forgiving someone who chose to hurt you, or choosing not to clap back when you're attacked. Fourth, don't try to do this alone. God never intended you to figure this out by yourself. That's why the church exists, not as a building, but as a family. You need people who will help you love God and love others when it's hard. People who will pray with you, challenge you, and remind you who you are when you forget. Finally, stop putting yourself at the center. The world says loving yourself is the highest goal. Jesus says losing yourself for love is where real life begins. When God becomes the center of your life, you don't disappear, you actually become who you were created to be. Loving God and loving people isn't about being perfect, it's about direction. Step by step, choice by choice, you're learning how to live a life shaped by love, the kind of love that Jesus lived, taught, and died to show you. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.